Hey everyone, welcome back with another session of history. I hope you all are doing well. So, we'll continue the same chapter, that is the early states, Janapadas and the Mahajanapadas. Now, in the earlier sessions, we have already discussed about the Mahajanapadas and the political life and the administration of all the Mahajanapadas. Alright, so today we'll start the proceedings with the one of the most powerful Janapada, that is Magad. Now you see guys, Magad was the most powerful Mahajanapada in the 6th century that subdued most of the 16 Mahajanapadas and it rose to its prominence. Now while doing so guys, many factors contributed to Magad become a dominant power among all the 16 Mahajanapadas. Now you see certain factors are like, first of all, Magad was located at the confluence of the rivers Ganga and river Son. Now this made it possible to exercise control over the Ganga plains, the river and also the riverine trade. Okay, now besides a perfect geographical location, Magad had an abundance of natural resources. Also, the Ganga plains were fertile. So it yielded a surplus crop production. Along with all this, the forest region provided timber and different animals such as elephants that were used in the army. So all these factors played a huge role in becoming Magad as a most powerful Mahajanapada. Okay. Now next up, if we see the Magadhan capital Rajgriha was also surrounded by 5 hills, so which provided a natural defense system along with the thick stone walls that made it difficult for the enemy to attack Magad. Now to increase its territories, Magad also conquered neighboring kingdoms. And besides increasing Magad's territory, all these conquests that they did, so it increased the revenue system of the state, as many territories were flourishing centers of trade and commerce. Alright, so this was also a reason why they focused in conquesting other territories. Okay, now as we are discussing about Magad, now next we have, that is one of the most powerful and influential ruler we'll talk about, and about his son, that is Bimbisara and Ajatashatru. Now, if you see guys, Bimbisara belonged to the Hiranyaka dynasty and ruled Magad from 544 BCE to 495 BCE. And he established his capital at Rajgriha. Now, Bimbisara was firm in administrative matters and he did not tolerate any inefficiency and corruption in his administration. And this way, he expanded his kingdom. Now, according to the historians, he expanded his kingdom also through conquests and matrimonial alliances. Okay, and along with all this, Bimbisara was also known to be a devout Buddhist. So he believed in the principles of Lord Buddha. Fine. Now, next up, Bimbisara was succeeded by his son Ajatashatru, who ruled Magad after his father's death till 462 BC. Now, through his military expeditions, guys, he further strengthened Magad's position among all the 16 Mahajanapadas. Now, Ajatashatru, through his conquest, not only became the master of northern and eastern India, but he consolidated the Magadhan Empire. Now, like his father, Ajatashatru was also a great administrator and was well known for his military innovations. Okay, together Bimbisara and Ajatashatru, they built cities, towns, roads and bridges. And with all this, Magad had a rare combination of all the factors necessary for its rise. And other kingdoms such as like Kosala and Kashi, they were powerful, but they lacked the combination of natural resources and also able rulers to become the supreme power. Okay, so that's the thing. Now next up we have, that is the economy. Now, if we discuss about the economy of the Mahajanapadas, now agriculture remained the main occupation during the 6th century. Landowners, they got the land cultivated by the Shudras or Dasas, who were known to be as slaves. Now, who were these Dasas? Now, Dasas may have been the prisoners of war or people who probably owed money to the landowners. Okay. Also, along with all this, another advantage was that the wooden plowshare was replaced by the iron plowshare, and it became easier to cultivate clay soil with an iron plowshare. And when cultivation got simplified, more grains could be produced. So they came up with surplus production of grains, through which they profited a lot. Now, the farmers paid taxes to the state. Now, the king had appointed an official to collect taxes. If you have remembered, that official was termed as Bagdugha. Okay. Now, the tax was calculated to be 1/6 of the produce, and this was called bhaga, and it was paid in grains, sometimes as well as money. Now, money during their time, during that period, just as we used money, that money was not there. So, in the form of transaction, they used punched marked coins. So, as you can see the pictures here. Now, these punched marked coins were introduced during this period. Now, which were used to pay taxes. So, in one way, you can call this was the medium of their transaction. Now, different figures, as you see look at the coins here in the picture, different figures were engraved on these coins, and therefore the historians refer to them as punched mark coins. Now, silver and copper were used to manufacture all these punched mark coins. Now, the king also appointed an official to survey the land and measure the grain that was used to be paid in taxes. So, he was very clever. So, he kept an eye on each and everything. Now, along with all this, towns and cities also came up during this period. Many towns and cities became the centers that specialized in different crafts and occupation, such as weaving, pottery, and chariot making. Now, many towns and cities were denoted as urban centers. That means where trading, business were done and flourished heavily. Now, according to the literary texts like the Jatakas, it mentioned these flourishing urban centers included Rajgriha, Vaishali, and Champa. So, these were the main Mahajanapadas where these urban centers flourished. Now, along with these, traders formed guilds or srenis, you can call it, during this period. Now, quite naturally, the question come up: what is this guild? Now, guilds were an organization of traders and merchants who had the authority and power to decide rules and regulations. So, this is quite important. Okay. Now, next, let's move on to the education. Now, you see guys, the towns and centers that developed during the 6th century also became the important centers of learning and education. Now, although the Gurukul system of education was still prevalent during that time, but after a certain period of time, universities at Taxila and Nalanda, they came up. And subjects such as like medicines, philosophy, grammar, astronomy, and different logics were taught in there. So, it was very, very helpful. Now, as education was improving day by day, so let's see about the society. So, how the societal norms prevailed during that time. Now, if you see guys, the society during the Mahajanapadas continued with the caste system that was established during the Vedic period. Now, the caste system had become more rigid than it was during the Vedic period. How? Now, the Varna system became hereditary, and different Varnas performed functions according to the Varna they were born into. Just imagine. Now, for example, if you see, Brahmanas, they were expected to teach Vedas and also perform religious rituals and sacrifices. Now, the Kshatriyas, they were the warrior class who fought wars and protected the people. Next came up the Vaishyas. Now the Vaishyas were the trading and the agriculturist groups. Now if we see guys, only the first three Varnas, that is Brahmanas, Kshatriyas and the Vaishyas, they were permitted to study the Vedas. And the last group, that is Sudras were the fourth Varna, who were considered as untouchables, and they were not allowed to do anything, and they were forced to live outside the city and perform all the menial jobs that they had. Okay, that's the thing. Now the last one, that is the religion. Now the 6th century also saw the origin of two new religious movements, that is Buddhism and Jainism. Now these new religious movements stemmed from the resentment that the common people started feeling towards the elaborate and expensive rituals that had been prevalent since the Vedic period. Okay, now people now desired simple religious practices that could be easily followed by each and every one of them. Now another problem was the use of Sanskrit for religious purposes. Now as all the groups were not allowed to study and all, so common people were unable to understand the Sanskrit. Now the people, because of all this reason, the people moved towards Buddhism and Jainism, which preached in the language of the masses, that is Prakrit. So that was the oldest form of Sanskrit. So their means of language was Prakrit. So it was easier for the people to grasp those. And this way Buddhism and Jainism prevailed. Now Buddhism, Jainism did not adhere to the caste system, and the lower classes saw this as an opportunity to avoid the oppressive caste system. Yes, this is another important thing. Now Buddhism and Jainism, in Buddhism and Jainism, they did not have all these different caste systems. So each and everybody could join, and each and everybody could follow this. So in this way, all these people, these lower classes, they saw this as an opportunity to avoid this caste system, oppressive caste system. So they joined Buddhism and Jainism. Now the founders of Buddhism and Jainism, they became popular among the people because they offered a simple life, no caste distinction, and also non-violence. So this way, these two religions prevailed much more during these Mahajanapadas. Okay, so with this we come to end of this chapter. I hope you have enjoyed the video. So till the next time with some other topics. Bye bye.